Welcome to the podcast. My name is Chris Stenberg. I'm a filmmaker and photographer here in Penticton, British Columbia, and today we are chatting with Kristine Lee, who is a fantastic painter, friend, and also a community activist in many different ways. So, yeah, to start with, maybe you can just tell me a little bit about what it is that you do and where we are in this lovely town.
Well, today we are at the Penticton Art Gallery, which is located on Marina Way, and I am a professional house painter. I paint the walls here at the Art Gallery, and I used to be on the board. And I'm just very involved in the arts. I have some paintings here. I have some paintings at the Cannery Brewing right now. Yeah, just an artist about town, I guess.
I love that. Thinking about kind of Penticton as an artistic community. I mean, when I first moved here, I was really actually taken by how connected everybody was. I mean, there are a lot of different types of artists, musicians, painters, other creative people, and it does seem everybody kind of knows each other. Everybody seems to connect well and be connected in different ways that, I think helps keep our kind of creative community afloat. And it seems, I don't know, sometimes it feels a little small. But
absolutely.
But at the same time, that can be really positive. Like, what's Penticton like as an artist, in terms of just other artists and community?
Well, I think Penticton has a small town syndrome, but the arts community is very entwined with each other. Between the public art gallery and places like the Dream Cafe and things like Ignite the Arts. I think that the arts community is, very entangled within each other and very supportive of each other,
We should talk about Ignite the Arts a little bit, because that is now in its
fourth year.
Yeah, maybe you can tell me a little bit about it, because I'm familiar, but actually I haven't been that involved in it myself, but it seems like it's getting some momentum and getting better and better.
Absolutely. So Paul Crawford and Julie Fowler used to do Arts Wells up in Wells, BC. It was every August, and it was very similar to what we have here. So there's painting, like artist painting, there is musicians, there's theater, so it just gets the whole community involved, and it happens in March, and it just brings all the types of artists together in Penticton and attracts people from, all over BC, parts of Alberta. People come, and it's fun. It's so much fun.
It does look like a lot of fun. I mean, and the couple things I've seen have been great. We're not always here at that time of the year, but I mean, that is an interesting. I mean, Penticton is largely focused around its summer. Obviously, we have a lot of things going on.
Off season,
Yeah, and I think that makes it actually kind of more awesome. But it's not so prohibitively off season like cold winter driving.
No. Last year it was, jacket and. You're fine going from, and the venues are not super spread out. They're all downtown, so it's all within walking distance, and it's super fun. Yeah.
Let's talk about your art. To start with, I mean, what kind of things do you like to paint? How would you describe your style?
It's various. Right now, I'm doing pet portraits for people, which are a lot of fun because they send you pictures of their pets, which is good. I do abstract. I do a lot of animals. I'm really keen on birds. It's varied throughout the years. I used to paint on plaster, on canvas. Now I mostly paint on wood. Mostly abstract and animals.
What about the birds? Because we have a painting of yours that, or two, we have two paintings of yours that are both bird themed.
Yeah, so that's just, if I was to choose any animal I wanted to be, I would be a bird. bird.
And is it any particular kind of bird, or is it?
No, not really. I really like birds. Yeah. I wouldn't want to keep one in a cage, but I do really like birds. Yeah.
We have some pretty cool birds around here also.
Ooh, yeah. I've wanted to learn how to bird watch, which would be super fun.
I know.
I think Dick Cannings does it.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people. I mean, and we have, I didn't even realize this, but over at Vaso Lake, there's a kind of bird observatory in that kind of riparian area that is supposed to be very good. And I haven't spent a lot of time down there, but I shoot at a vineyard that is close to there, and they have these osprey that come back every year.
Yeah.
Which I love watching. They're so fascinating, the way they interact with each other, the way that they like try to, if they get intimidated if I'm too close, and then the way they kind of like sort of start circling and making noise.
I like how the males are always like the fancier and they have to impress the lady, where I sometimes feel like it's the other way around for humans, right? The ladies are fancier and the ladies have to impress the men. But it's opposite with birds.
I don't know, we try sometimes too, though. Like, I feel like I've had to, dress up a little here and there and put on a good show.
Oh, yeah.
But
Absolutely. When you're first dating, it's definitely, yeah.
Yeah, but as humans, though, once you kind of get going, I guess the male bird just decides to get lazy and stop taking.
So much lazy, but yeah, he's just like, meh, whatever.
Yeah. Let's talk about Slack Alley. What is that, and what's involved there?
So Slack Alley.
Why is it called Slack Alley?
So it was started by Slackwater with the Downtown Penticton Business Improvement Association. So we did it over, I want to say 3 summers, and we just took parts of the alley and that was behind Slackwater and just livened them up with bright colors and murals, and then they would have block parties, which is a lot of fun. We did Slackwater. Then we did the Groove Yard, because it was the Groove Yard's anniversary. I think it was their 40th anniversary. And a little tribute to Leanne, who passed away on us. And then it was like the bum wrap and the hub. And so I think it was over 3 summers. It looks really good. It's really bright. I don't know what they're going to do with it now, because Slackwater has moved out of that space.
Apparently, there is another thing coming to that space, which I hope will carry on that tradition. Yeah,
and I hope that they'll be very, because Slackwater was very community involved. They were really good people, so hopefully the new people will be the same.
That idea of sort of alleyway beautification, artification, I think is so awesome, because it really was like a bit of a forgotten hole in downtown.
Yeah, and same with the sea can that I painted for them. So it's kind of kitty corner from, it's by the Care Closet, so kitty corner from Kin and Folk there. And they have little pop-up events there, because that's an area of Penticton that doesn't get the attention it deserves. So I think that the Downtown Penticton Association is doing really, really great things for the community and great things for artists, for sure.
Should we walk over and check out Slack Alley? I think that'd be kind of a fun way to, get this thing on its feet and go see some of your work live. Bright colors. I was told it looked like a 90s mall by somebody, but whatever. I like it. A 90s mall?
90s mall.
What's wrong with that?
I
love the 90s.
It reminds me of the beginning of Saved by the Bell with all the bright colors.
Oh, cool. All right.
By the Bell?
I do. That's
the
funny.
Pinks and the purples and the blues, yeah.
I guess was it the 90s, or are we still talking 80s? But that whole season of Stranger Things, it was like set
the 80s,
in the shopping mall.
Yeah, in the mall.
Man, that was cool.
It would have been the late 80s.
That was just, I can't be the only person that just found that so nostalgic and
no,
fun.
I definitely did.
I
loved the mall.
Let's go get an Orange Julius and go walk through the...
I loved the mall. So Slackwater started it, and they kind of wanted something to go along the same lines as their cans. So their cans had all these bright, like I said, 90s mall colors. So we went with that. So this was the first year. And then the second year we did the groove yard. And we tried to tie everything together color-wise. So we did the more triangles. Leanne's Jams 1990, which was the year the groove yard opened. And then Chelsea Terry Chals did the mural. She did another mural the year before, but then we painted over it and did a new one. My tribute to Kevin the Goose. Kevin, was that his name?
Yeah, tell me the story of Kevin the Goose.
I don't know much about him.
As much as you can.
I just know that he was a goose that had an injured wing, couldn't fly south, so he just hung out at Okanagan Lake. And then this summer he passed away. He got attacked by a dog.
But
and they couldn't fix him.
That was a major thing though in Penticton. It was in the news, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Kevin
He
the
was
Goose.
a Penticton staple.
You know what's weird though? I've never stood and just like looked at this building. This is such a cool.
So yeah, we didn't want to touch this building too much because it is a tear down. They're going to tear it down. But we liked the old-timey sort of look of it. So we just painted the garage door red. That was it.
And also like, yeah, just the old sign.
Yeah. And then we just, put the picture in the window and that's it. So this was like the first kind of bit where we brought in some new color. So we did the music notes and my little tribute to the White Stripes with the triangle. And then last we've got the distillery. This is Wildflower. And then Teas and Weaves and the Science Shop, which we thought it would be fun to bring more bees over.
It's really fun back here.
Yeah, and then the bum wrap, which we went with the whole surf theme and did some cheesy waves and more triangles.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
What do you think like a kind of community alleyway mural project does for the town?
Well, when they do the block parties, it brings people together, which is super cool. I find that the alley's cleaner since we did this. And I'm not gonna lie, the homeless people coming through when I was doing it were super stoked. They're like, it looks so good. It just cheers them up too, because they're the people that hang out back here the most, I guess. Yeah, so this is Slack Alley. I don't know what's going to happen with it next year.
Now, when you're painting, how does your process work? What what inspires you and how do you get ideas to start kind of putting to canvas or to wood in this case?
That's an interesting question, actually. Usually it's just things that I see in other artists that inspire me, I guess. I do follow a lot of other artists, and then just looking up like wildlife photos or watching wildlife shows. I really like wildlife documentaries and stuff. And then patterns. A lot of my stuff lately has patterns in it. So fabrics will inspire me. Just wallpaper patterns, stuff like that. And being somebody that works as a house painter, you're helping people make their home their sanctuary, and so those things inspire me too, like what kind of colors I'm looking at, what kind of wallpapers I'm looking at.
Well, that's actually something I've noticed about your work is that it is often like quite vivid and the colors are like quite bright, but not always, it's not like you're working with the same palette every time. And I don't know if that comes from your sort of experience out in the world painting other things.
It probably does, yeah.
Yeah, but I like that because some people, they have a certain sort of look that, and of course you do too, but I think when it comes to the color palette, it seems to be always changing, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. And I do really I love color. Color is, as an artist and as a house painter, is super important, right?
I know I've realized like house painting is completely different than, when you sit down and do the art, so to speak, but obviously like house painting can be an art too. And
oh, absolutely.
And paintings can end up being art in your house.
Yeah.
But, how do you balance that kind of, you're painting all day for work and then you want to go home and paint? I mean, I realize they're different, but effectively you're kind of using the same tools in different parts of your life.
It does, since I've become a house painter, it does make it a little harder to want to paint art at the end of the day. But so I have slowed down. Before I was house painting, I was painting paintings a lot, like tons. I had an exhibit here in I want to say maybe 2013. And that's before I started house painting, and I was painting constantly. And then when I decided to take up house painting, it just kind of tapered off a bit. I'm still doing a lot, but it's not like, a painting a month or something. Now it's like,
I guess that I find that in my life
thing.
also. I'm like, in my spare time, I love making videos and taking pictures, and I want to be doing something kind of artistic or something of my own kind of choosing or inspiration. But, when you do it commercially all day long, every day, it can be a real challenge. So, I mean, I'm often all day shooting videos and taking pictures, and then by the time the weekend rolls around or whenever my free time comes, I'm not always in the mood for doing that more.
Yeah.
But with that said, I mean, I often am, so I guess that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common human thing. Like when I worked at the Groove Yard, for instance, the last thing I wanted to do when I came home was stick a record on, right? Whereas now, we play records at home all the time, right? So it's just, if it's your job, you don't want to do it when you get home so much, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it's weird though. I guess you're in the right place that when in your spare time you are doing something similar related to your work.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I feel very comfortable having a brush in my hand always. So.
Do you ever take sort of like conscious moments to be like, no, right now I'm just doing art. I'm gonna back off of like day to day, or is there time for that? Or.
Oh no, there's definitely time for that. Like. The next 3 weeks is going to be, nobody's going to want me in their home house painting, right? So I'll probably do a lot of art then, but that's probably the only time of year that I get a chance to.
That's funny, actually. I think that's the same for me too. It's that Christmas sort of window.
Yeah, nobody really,
holiday
they're busy
window.
with other things. If they wanted their house painted to look fancy for Christmas, they would have done it in October, right? So.
Right. Although some people, you do get these like last minute crazy
requests.
requests.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm having Christmas dinner. I need my house painted this week, pronto.
Yeah.
My in-laws are coming or whatever.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It happens once in a while.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're sitting here in the Penticton Art Gallery. I feel like this is maybe just something that not everybody always thinks about when they come to Penticton, but we do have a really great art gallery space in a beautiful location with a beautiful garden out back near the lake. I mean, it's very central and accessible. And
yeah, so we're in the Penticton Art Gallery right now. Right now they have the Under 500 exhibit going on, which the room we're in right now has Under 500. And then they also have the Young Collectors Club right now, which is in the main gallery. So kids can come in and pay, I think it's $25, and they get to go in without their parents and pick their piece of art without any influence at all. And then the rest of the main gallery is the gallery's part of their permanent collection. So this happens every year for Christmas. Paul Crawford is an amazing curator. He's done some amazing things for the gallery. We've had some really big shows. We just had Robert Bateman. We had the only exhibit of Bob Ross in all of Canada a couple years ago. And he he has very thought-provoking exhibits. Like we've had a cannabis show, we've had a mental health show, we've had an LGBTQ show. We are very lucky to have this space, and Paul is our curator. He's really, really good.
I love the mix of sort of, like you said, thought-provoking, but also Bob Ross. Not that Bob Ross isn't thought-provoking, but I mean, he's so commercially well-known that almost feels like it doesn't fit in some ways, but then it also is so cool and gets so many people through the door.
Yeah, so we had that during, I think it was the first, maybe summer of COVID. And so that was an obstacle, but it was really popular. It was really good. Little Penticton was talked about all over Canada. There was articles in the UK about it. It was, yeah.
Well, this is kind of an interesting, that's an interesting segue into kind of what gets Penticton attention. I mean, we live in a community that's, relatively small in comparison to other places. I mean, we're 30 to 40,000 people generally throughout the year. And then in the summer, it kind of blows up to 50 or 60,000 people, tourists and summer residents. And we are kind of known here more for the Peaches and Beaches thing and summer activities and sports. Ironman, triathlon has been a big part of this community. And I feel like that all gets a lot of attention. However, I mean, we do this. It is such a vibrant art community here, like we were talking about, but I don't always feel like it gets the credit it deserves or that it gets the attention that it deserves because, artists are a little maybe demure about some things or just kind of, they're not always great self-promoters, right?
No, yeah. Because you don't want to commercialize yourself, I guess. That's one of those classic artist things where, you don't want to burn yourself into becoming your job, because once it becomes your job, then it's not fun anymore, right? So I think that's a big thing for artists. I also, while the art community in Penticton is very accepting of everybody, I don't think that the community at large is kind of aware of how important the arts is to Penticton. Because there is so many, if you look at the amount of bands, at the amount of artists, we've had some great people come out of Penticton, just like Shane Koizan, for instance, as a poet, is really, really, really popular. A lot of people probably don't know that he comes from this little tiny town tucked between two lakes, right? So I don't think that I don't think the community at large kind of gets it.
Yeah, I think someone like Shane Koizan, obviously he's super talented, really fascinating guy, and on stage just has such a presence and is a brilliant writer. I think a lot of people do know who he is, but I don't know that he is such a household name in Canada. I feel like, around the Olympics, that was a huge thing for him. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like he is still kind of like an indie artist. And even in Penticton, I think it's easy to think of him just as a local artist, but I don't think people locally necessarily understand the reach that he has globally or, nationally.
I think a lot of people also think he comes from Vancouver.
True, yeah. So if you're on the other side of the country, where's Penticton? It's like, oh, he's from the West Coast. He must be from Vancouver or wherever. Or he's just Canadian if you're in the States.
Yes, absolutely.
So, but I mean, I feel like having people like him around and a lot of these sort of successful or just maybe not as commercially successful artists that are around here, they do all kind of inspire each other. And that's where maybe that small town thing kind of gets flipped on its head. And the accessibility to that, for example, it was the 2010 Olympics when Shane came out on stage in Vancouver, and it was this huge thing, whoa, and he delivered this incredible poem that he'd written about Canada. It was just amazing, and I think for anyone from Penticton, it was a really proud moment.
Oh, yeah.
But I was literally sitting at the Elite Diner, maybe rest in peace, the Elite Diner. Greatest place ever. But a little old diner that was kind of also a little art hub for the community with open mic nights and live shows and just creative people liked hanging out there in the dark with the weird lamps and crappy couches or like crappy carpet and just
the
weird
fish tank that looked
fish
like
tank.
it hadn't been cleaned in a little while.
Yeah, super eclectic. And it was that was the place where all the kind of weirdos hung out, and I loved it. It was one of my favorite places in town. And I remember before the Olympics, I was sitting maybe like in the same booth as Shane talking about something, or at the bar at the Elite in this old diner. And then, I don't know, less than a week later, I'm watching him like on global television, like massive worldwide TV, delivering this like super inspiring, just like heart-wrenching poem about Canada. And I was like, whoa.
Little Penticton.
Little Penticton, right?
Little Penticton. And he's just an example of all the great artists that we have here doing tons of different art.
Well, and I think as a local artist, to have access to someone like that too, when you just run into them at your local haunt, or get to see a show just down the road that maybe you don't have to travel too far for. Like when we have our own artists performing in the community and doing their art in the community, I think that's a really great way to inspire the next generation, right?
Absolutely, and we have some nice venues like the Dream Cafe. We have 2 really great community theaters with the Tempest and Many Hats. Like for the size of our community, we do have a lot of options. It's just hard to get people to come out and look at it.
That is, I wonder if that is everywhere or just here, but there is like something that happens here in the off season, especially, where people just kind of go in their hole and don't come out.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm guilty of this.
It's a summer town, right? So, once it starts getting cold,
I've lately
I think we hibernate.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it is a little chilly.
Yeah.
And also we're soft here because we are used to the nice summers.
Scorching hot summers. Yeah. Where you're practically running around naked, and then in the winter you're like 10 layers and you're still cold.
Yeah, I mean, this is not Edmonton where it's cold 10 months of the year and you just like the little bit of summer you get as a bonus. Like
maybe 2 months, and then but those 2 months nobody wants to go outside.
People live for the summer here. I find that actually kind of strikingly different than even growing up in Vancouver. Like the sun seekers here, it's just insane. And I think that is a big driving force, but that doesn't mean that, we should all just disappear in the winter. I mean, I think there are so many things like Soup Bowls just happen.
Yeah, and the Loving Mugs is happening in February. So, as it's going to start warming up, we're going to have chili in our bellies.
One on that note too, I mean, you are involved, and a lot of this stuff is coming through the arts community, and you're involved in a lot of different things. So on top of your own art and what you do here, but you mentioned Many Hats. I know you've over the years had a big involvement with them.
Yeah, I used to do sets for Many Hats, which I did with my dad, which was tons of fun. But Dad's getting old, so we had to stop doing it. Yeah, I do the Soup Bowls and the Loving Mugs. I started doing that because I used to do Monday night dinners. So it was a way for me to advertise Monday night dinners and get donations and volunteers to help feed the homeless. And then when I stopped doing that, I just still wanted to do it, so I do it.
Tell me just briefly a little bit about the Monday night dinners. I mean, I think that's something that a lot of people know you around town for, but also just what was it and why was it important to you?
It was a program to feed the homeless. We would go to Nanaimo Square. I would cook a home-cooked meal for them and serve them, and we would have socks and toiletries and whatever they needed. I loved doing it. The city didn't like me doing it. It was a constant battle about where we had set up. And then when COVID hit, it just got too hard we couldn't meet in one place. You had to drive around to feed them, and I didn't have a vehicle that was really set up for doing that. So somebody else took over, and in the end, there's way more programs now to help the homeless than there was when I was doing that. So I felt bad that I couldn't do it anymore, but at the same time, maybe some momentum started to other programs. There's the Purple Pantry out at the Elks there. We have more homeless shelters or, like Compass House and stuff like that where they feed them. So It's not, luckily, it's not needed as much anymore as it was back then.
I mean, that was an interesting, I mean, it's great that there are more supports out there. I also feel like it feels like there are more people.
There's more homeless people.
Yeah, more homeless people, more people in need, more people facing addiction issues in the street. But what made you want to take that under your own purview on your own? I mean, that wasn't something that was well supported, that you did that more or less by yourself with the help of other people, but that was your undertaking. It wasn't.
Yeah, I think it was just the fact that I had recently become a single mom, and I was lucky that I was in a situation where I had family and friends that were there to help me and support me, and how close I could have become to being homeless with my kids. And I like to cook, and I'm an extrovert, so it just was like, it just happened. It just happened.
I mean, that's pretty modest, I feel, because I mean, especially all those things you just said, you could easily look at that and go, well, I'm just too busy and I've got too much going on and life is hard right now. And, you know, to go and take that on by yourself, why was giving back in that way so important to you?
I'm a firm believer that if you give back to the community, they'll give back to you tenfold. So, and I'm in that situation where I've had the community do really lovely things for me. So, and I also think that I've lived in Penticton for, 40, almost 49. So I've lived here for 44 years. And I know a lot of people. I could, I can get a crew together quite easily and make it happen. And with social media, oh my God, that makes it so much easier. Like, so much easier. I would just give people my address and I would come home from work and there's socks and beans and rice on my stoop for cooking for the homeless. So it was a lot of work for me to cook and to go do it. But really, it was a community project. The community was very, very, very much involved. The community, parts of the community that wanted to be. There were parts of the community that did not like it at all. But I think that those people already have ideas of what homeless people are, and they're not that, so.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, especially knowing some people recently that have ended up in that situation for different reasons, and had family members also, maybe not in Penticton, but in other places, have gone through that. And yeah, it really could be anybody, just because you could come from a very solid foundation and then find yourself in that situation. And it's obviously like a very broad-reaching topic in terms of like how to make this better. It would be nice if there was no such thing as homelessness, and if that everybody was always taken care of, but I don't know that we live in that world, and so it is this constant battle to try and. Yeah,
and the arts community is a very giving community, so I would do baskets at Christmas to auction off and stuff, and artists, musicians, poets, they were all donating books and CDs and pieces of art to go in the baskets to auction off. So and there were so many businesses that were willing to give, to help people, especially around Christmas time, right?
That's interesting that, and maybe that is why artists are so hesitant to be commercial in that way, because I feel like, on the one hand, the notion of like selling out doesn't really exist in other types of businesses. Like, that's what you want to do. That's the whole point. Yeah. But with artists, there is this idea of like trying to keep some integrity in what you're doing. Yeah,
and some humanity in it, right?
And I feel like that does lend itself well into those like kind of community initiatives where, people are asking for help or looking for someone to help. It does always seem like it's the arts community that is stepping up to that.
Absolutely, yeah.
What can Penticton do to sort of continue to sort of foster a good arts community and just the next generation of artists to encourage them?
We could use an art center. We could definitely use an art center. I don't think we need more ice space. I think that the art gallery is doing a good job at trying to bring people into the gallery. It is our only public art gallery. So I can't say how other galleries are doing in town, but the Lloyd Gallery's been here forever, right? So I think that more support from the city, more support from city council.
I was just thinking, when you said art center, I was thinking about Kelowna is obviously a bigger city than Penticton, but you go downtown and around their whole, the big boardwalk and hotel and ice arena for events and hockey and all that stuff. And then they've got an art center right next to it. And they got a huge sign. There's always something going on. And there's like 2 or 3 theaters in that area that always have these big billboard type things with like information flashing, and maybe people driving by are catching wind of some of that. I'm sure some of it's through social media and traditional media, but yeah, maybe being tucked away, just all modest like in the corner of town.
Stuck on a little roundabout at the end of town. There's no big arrow. Like
maybe we should bring back Frank, the famous statue in the middle of the roundabout.
That gave a lot of controversy. People
put a sign, put a sign for Frank to be like, holding.
Or even if we could use the big electronic sign that they have at the event center, and it advertised other things going on around town rather than just things at the event center, which people can't always afford to go to because it's really pricey.
Yeah, maybe there's an initiative to get some of that billboard space, or even on the highway coming into town, there's some electronic billboards, but I realize that is all for-profit, expensive space.
Absolutely.
But yeah, maybe that's where some of that could be diverted. Anyway, that's a whole different story. But yes, let's get an event center or an art center.
We do need
an art center would be fantastic.
Art center that has like an art gallery and a theater and a music venue.
Yeah, and just like one of those
classes.
I don't know, like one of those places where you go in and the lobby feels nice, and sometimes people are dressed up to go see like a concert, or they're dressed up to see a play or dance or whatever it might be.
Because we used to have the Shatford, and they had the Okanagan Summer School of the Arts and all these other things, and they don't really, we don't have that anymore. So it's the art gallery and the Arts Council, which I just joined, at the Lear House, and that's kind of all we've got. And the Lear House is beautiful, and this space is lovely, but they're getting old, right? And it would be nice to have a all-in-one encompassed. And I do believe that we have the people that can fill up those spaces and make that happen. It's just.
Thanks so much for chatting with me. I think that, you've done amazing things in the community, and I appreciate what you do, and I can't wait to see some of your next paintings. And I know you've got
the pet portraits are so fun. Oh my gosh.
Where can people find you online, for example?
Mostly just on Facebook. Kristine Lee Artist on Facebook, and you can find me on Instagram, Kristine Lee Painter. That's it. I don't really have a huge social media.
You're such an artist.
Right? I don't have a website. I don't.
What? You don't have like a one click to pay button on your website?
Nope. Nope.
Oh yes, keeping the integrity and non-commercial side alive.
Yeah, right.